Hi, Jon Clay, VP of Threat Intelligence here. Welcome to Trend Talks BizSec, episode 12. Joining me again is Ed Cabrera, our Chief Cybersecurity Officer. Ed, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Really interesting topic we got to discuss today.
Yeah, so a lot of people may not realize that Trend Micro has a big consumer play. We do a lot around the consumer side. So today we wanted to talk about scams. In fact, I was at The Hague and I spoke at a global anti-scam summit just recently. And it was an eye-opening to see all the different types of scams that are out there today and what we're going to see. In fact, the FBI's 2021 IC3 report showed that investment scams were right behind business email compromise. And so maybe a good way to start off, Ed, let's talk about investment scams, crypto scams. We've seen a lot in the news lately about crypto, but what are your thoughts around investment scams?
Well, I think investment scams have obviously been around for quite some time. You have investment scams associated with pump and dump schemes, fronting, and so forth. So there's a lot of traditional investment scams that have been around, but I think it's, with crypto and the changing landscape, not only with different areas of risk assets to invest in, but also possibly looking at, a global recession or downturn. You have a lot of investors looking to gain some kind of return on investment and a higher yield. And they're looking at things that possibly in the past they might not have been looking at. So I think there's always this risk here associated with in these volatile investment assets or these risk assets for investors.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see more of this. In fact, the FBI said that they'll probably think that investment scams will likely be the top threat of losses next year in 23 versus this year, which was business email compromise. And so, as you said, that with the global economy going where it is, I think we're going to see a lot more people looking to invest in other areas other than stock market. So obviously crypto is a big one that's there. You mentioned pump and dump schemes, Ed. What's interesting is I think we're going to start seeing more deepfake technology used as part of this. So what you can envision here is a CEO being deepfake saying something about their company that impacts the stock price, right? It either goes up or down. And depending on what they state. So, as an investor, obviously, if you see a CEO talking about a company, you want to do a second check to see if that's actually accurate or not. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that is going to happen all the time, I think, Ed.
No, I think, sadly, I think the level of quality when it comes to deep fakes is pretty scary, right? And I think, like you said, it's a great opportunities for cyber criminals and traditional financial fraud, criminals to be able to take advantage of it. I mean, when you look at a pump and dump scheme, that basic element that is fake recommendations, and right. Obviously deep fakes really take it to a next level. So interesting problem. Definitely predict that this is going to happen, and it's going to be a challenge, like you said, for individuals to be able to discern what is real and what is fake. And there's going to be a growing market for sort of fact checking at a much higher and faster rate when it comes to anything related to companies and organizations and corporate disclosures.
Yeah, and obviously in the news lately has been FTX, big issue there, and a lot of people have lost money. And one of the biggest scams we see now, Ed, with investment in crypto are people saying they can get their coins back. So if I lost coins in this deal or somebody stole my wallet, then you get these scammers who send a text or an email to somebody saying, "Hey, I can get your coins back for you. Pay me $10,000 or $15,000, and I can do that." Crypto. What is the likelihood that somebody can actually get a coin back if it was stolen?
Yeah, I mean, there is the hook here is that there is this notion that it's a distributed ledger and that obviously it can be tracked, right? However, I'd be very suspect, absolutely suspect on any organization, individual claiming that they can get it back for you, right? I think oftentimes we see the federal government seizing coins, and if your coin is associated or seized a part of an investigation, yeah, then there's a possible chance that you can be able to get your coin back. But when it comes to individuals claiming that they can do it for you, that's too good to be true.
Yeah, and that's one of the main themes around scams is they try to play off of it. It's too good to be true, and that's where people fall prey. The other one that was interesting on the FBI 2021 scam list, which by the way, that reported around $55 billion in scam losses in 2021, which is a lot of money lost by consumers out there, are romance scams. And interesting. There was a lady who actually spoke at the summit I was at, who fell prey to a romance scam. Unfortunately, this person, the scammer, wooed her. They went on dates. They went on vacations. So he actually put up a lot of money to get this thing off the ground. And then obviously he had her pay him for some things and wanting some money, needing money because he was having issues with work and all that kind of stuff. So she unfortunately fell prey. Found out later he'd scammed about 100 women around in Europe with this scam. And so romance is another area I think that we're going to see increases in 23.
Yeah, these are definitely they're hard to watch, right? Because this is essentially con artists truly taking an advantage of unsuspecting victims. And on one hand, the state of what we can actually quickly develop as far as from a cyber perspective, personas, backgrounds, social media accounts, to establish some of this background history, or at least enough to sort of trick these victims into believing, right? Because the first thing that a lot of us do with whether we're buying something, we're going quickly on the internet to see if the company or the product and how well it's rated. And the same thing is happening, I'm sure, to the extent from a social perspective, that people, when they meet somebody, they're doing their little quick check to see if they exist. So it's a double-edged sword, obviously, for those criminals, because as quickly as they can sort of build this persona, right, and invest in building these personas to be able to trick these victims, it can be quickly taken apart as well from open source investigations that law enforcement can do to be able to really see how this person doesn't exist, and or certain elements of this individual, and or link, like in this case that you mentioned, other victims to this person. Because now we have the advent of much more facial recognition technology that is out there. It's not just open, for law enforcement, this and that and the other. So it's a double-edged sword. It creates opportunities. Technology creates opportunities for the criminals, but at the same time, it creates opportunities for those investigating these crimes to be able to track them down and put them behind bars.
Yeah. And what's interesting, obviously, it's not just females that are falling for this. There's a lot of males that are falling for this as well. In fact, we're looking into some of the underground communities, and we're seeing a lot more female hackers getting into the game. We're also seeing a lot of women being recruited by scammers who then obviously are used to lure men into a romance scam as well. So it's definitely a challenge, Ed, and obviously recommendation is to, like you said, use some open source intelligence gathering about the person that you're talking to or you're meeting to try to identify if it's actually a true love, so to speak.
Yes, I mean, I think that it's a great advice across the board. It's the same level of scrutiny that you're going to apply when you're buying anything online. Well, the same thing, you should be having that same level of skepticism and or wanting to sort of validate some of the people that you actually meet.
Yeah. You know, another fascinating person that was at the event I was at, Ed, was a guy named Jim Browning, who has a YouTube channel where he outs call centers in India. If you're not familiar, India has a huge amount of call centers, full call centers that are exclusively used to do tech support scams. So if you've seen the Microsoft, somebody calls you and says, hey, your computer's infected with malware. We need access to this computer to be able to wipe it with the malware, or pay us, $200 to get some support to fix your computer. These things, I mean, it's a full-on criminal investigation. He actually outs them. He actually gets into their networks. He gets into their CCTV cameras. It's pretty fascinating. He's got 4 million subscribers on YouTube, and he does this on a regular basis. But this is another scam that is huge, and I see a lot of, especially older people who aren't as familiar with technology, get caught up with this scam.
No, absolutely. And there is, like you said, a lot of effort and these malicious groups going into and creating this sort of social engineered attacks. Right. When you bring in, call centers, there's one thing getting a phishing email, and I think we've all have become better educated when it comes to phishing emails, like, hey, this is too good to be true. I didn't do X and Y and Z. I don't have that account. So not engage at all and report it, especially, if it's coming to your work email address, reporting it internally to your information security teams. But, when you get to these call centers, especially like you said, it's really sad when they go after the elderly, right? Because once you get somebody on the phone, now their guard comes down a little bit, right? And especially if they've done a little bit of homework to the person that they're actually, targeting. And then this level of believability tends to increase. And so forth, they become, a higher chance of becoming victims. I always say my recommendation is if no company is going to call or engage you on a customer support thing. Right. Only you are going to. Now, if they're lucky enough to sort of time it, and or possibly if your email's been compromised, to sort of piggyback on a customer support issue that you've already started, the best thing to do is go back to the websites, go back to the actual known, or at least you have a better confidence level that the information on telephone numbers, emails from contact support and so forth, that truly validate who this person is. Do not engage, obviously, if you don't have the issue, right? First and foremost. But if you do have issues, validate, and second and triple check, those that are calling you with the information that they're providing.
Yeah, all good advice. So the last topic, a scam I wanted to highlight, Ed, we're obviously going into shopping season, so online shopping scams are going to be massive. In fact, we saw a 60% increase year over year in September and October for online shopping scams. So that's a huge increase from last year to this year. It's, over 15,000 scam sites in 1 week that we had to block for our customers. But online shopping scams, so obviously the big thing there, I think, look for too good to be true. We talked about that, right? Hey, here's an iPhone for $1, right? Probably ain't going to happen. You're not going to get that iPhone for $1, right? Or 90% off on on this sale, right? These flash sales that you get. In fact, Ed, the other day, I had a site come up on my Facebook feed. It said, get golf clubs for 85% off. I go to the site and it looks brand new. It looks like the site's got all the stuff, but then you can even order the stuff. But what you end up getting is the cheap knockoffs, the fakes that they ship to you that, it's only a couple of bucks to make instead of the hundreds of dollars that most of the manufacturers have to put in. But that's too good to be true. A couple other areas that we see are survey scams. So they'll come in and say, hey, here's $100 to take this survey. That's one we see quite often. If you're browsing the web, certainly I would recommend going to the actual big box site. So go to Amazon.com. Don't do it through a link that you got sent. That kind of stuff. So what are some of the mediums that these scammers use to target people, Ed, before we close up here?
It's an interesting discussion because we've We've seen a lot of talk about, Elon Musk buying Twitter and so forth, and this sort of elevated look at some of the things that are happening in social media. So I think social media is one of the bigger areas. I mean, it creates incredible opportunities for small businesses to put up an Instagram, advertisement and sell things. But at the same time, creates an incredible amount of opportunities for scammers, right, to do the same thing. And like you said, it's not necessarily that they're just going to completely take your money and not give you something. There is a good chance you might just get a knockoff, like you said, a counterfeit product. Happens with also pharmaceuticals, all kinds of things that you think that you might be getting the actual or legitimate product when in fact you're not. So I think a lot of that is a challenge, because you look at even mainstream consumer products, there's always a sort of different version or a knockoff version that it's not necessarily fraud in itself. It's just the fraud is that you're thinking that you're getting that other product by label or name. So I think the medium is social media, and we have to have a heightened level of scrutiny and skepticism when we hear anything or see anything on social media. I mean, it should be normal anyways. Right. But to the extent that when it comes to shopping, I definitely recommend go to the tried and true accounts that you already have, such as Amazon, the Best Buys, the Walmarts, the Targets, the bigger stores, the bigger areas first. And that's when I see a product, I actually, even just from a smart consumer aspect, not even the fraud aspect, if I see a product on social media, I don't buy it from the social media site. I end up looking at it and pulling up and, looking at these other shopping sites to see if that product actually exists and how much they're being charged. So there's different ways, but I think the medium of choice and the medium of risk is social media.
Yeah, I would say obviously that's one of the bigger ones. Obviously, email, text messages, you're going to get those on a regular basis. Websites that you browse to, they may get some ads, malvertisements that they put on there, those kind of things. But so if you're a consumer and you're watching this, one of the things that we recommend obviously is, again, go to the main sites. Go look at things through skepticism a little bit. If you have a mobile device, there's a free app called Trend Micro Check that will scan your text messages. It'll scan your email messages, even maybe look at your phones calls that you're getting, and help identify if it's from a scammer, if it is a scam. Like I mentioned earlier, we block thousands and thousands of scam sites on a daily basis that we identify. We even partner with a company called Scam Advisor, so we share threat intelligence with them to identify and block these sites as much as possible. So, Ed, any last thoughts you have?
No, I think just like DHS is recommended, especially we go into this holiday season, stop, think, connect. In other words, definitely take a look and pause before you start clicking on anything. Obviously, anything coming from, smishing is exploded in the amount of smishing attacks. And then also regular phishing, but also social media and these malicious websites. Just have that higher level of risk and think about it twice. And then, like you said, go back to your true and tried shopping habits, utilizing these larger platforms to do so.
Yeah, all great advice. So, Ed, thanks again for joining me on this Trend Talks BizSec episode 12. We'll be back again with another topic in the near future. Everybody have a safe and happy holiday, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.